The envelope was empty. Junho stared at the cream-colored paper in his hand, then at the beautiful African woman walking toward the exit. Rain hammered against the diner windows. Her Louboutin heels clicked against the floor with each step, that little star tattoo on her neck catching the fluorescent light. She'd left 0 tip on a 47,001 bill. But that wasn't what made his blood boil. It was the note she'd scribbled on the receipt. Meet me tomorrow at Osei Tower, 10 a.m. Come alone. Your daughter's medical bills won't pay themselves. How the hell did this stranger know about Hannah? Junho's tattooed arm flexed as he crumpled the receipt. His cream-colored hair fell into his eyes as he looked up, catching her reflection in the window. She stood by the door, not leaving yet. Just waiting. Like she knew he'd chase her. Like she wanted him to. Excuse me. Junho called out, his voice tight. The other customers looked up. You forgot something. Isabella turned slowly. God, she was stunning. Dark skin that seemed to glow even under the horrible diner lighting. Eyes that could slice through steel. Full lips curved into a smirk that made him want to either kiss her or throw her out. I forgot nothing, she said in flawless Korean, tilting her head. I left exactly what I intended. 01. On a 47,001 bill. I don't pay for mediocrity. She walked back toward him, and every eye in the diner followed her. Your service was acceptable. Your attitude needs work. And your desperation is showing. The diner went silent. Junho felt heat crawling up his neck. 3 years of swallowing his pride. 3 years of smiling at rude customers. 3 years of taking whatever scraps people threw at him because he needed this job. Because Hannah needed her medication. Because he had no other choice. But something about this woman made all that restraint evaporate. Get out, he said quietly. Her eyebrow raised. Excuse me. You heard me. Get out of my section. Out of this diner. Go back to whatever ivory tower you crawled out of and leave people like us alone. Isabella's smile widened. She leaned against the counter, close enough that he could smell her perfume. Something expensive. Something that probably cost more than his rent. People like you, she repeated, tasting the words. You mean poor? Struggling? Desperate enough to work double shifts in a place like this while your daughter sits in a hospital waiting for treatment you can't afford. Junho's hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. Not hard, just firm enough to stop her from walking away. How do you know about my daughter? The diner had gone from silent to holding its breath. Isabella looked down at his hand on her wrist, then back up at his face. Something flickered in her eyes. Surprise? Respect? He couldn't tell. Let go of me, she said softly, or I'll have you arrested for assault. Answer the question. Let go. They stared at each other. 5 seconds. 10. The tension was thick enough to choke on. Junho released her wrist. Isabella rubbed the spot where he'd grabbed her, her expression unreadable. Then she reached into her Hermes bag and pulled out a business card. Black. Heavy stock. Gold lettering that read, Isabella Osei, CEO, Osei Global Enterprises. She placed it on the counter between them. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Don't be late. She turned to leave, then paused. And Junho? We're something better than that. Her eyes swept over his worn uniform with barely concealed disgust. You look like you gave up on yourself years ago. Then she was gone, disappearing into the soul rain like she'd never been there at all. Junho stood there, shaking with rage and confusion and something else he couldn't name. The other customers slowly started talking again. The kitchen staff went back to cooking. Everything returned to normal. Except nothing would ever be normal again. Because in his pocket, folded small and hidden, was a medical report he'd stolen from Hannah's doctor's office 3 days ago. A report that said his 9-year-old daughter had 6 months to live without the experimental treatment that cost more money than he'd make in 5 lifetimes. And somehow, this stranger with the star tattoo and the cruel smile knew about it. Drop a comment right now if you think Junho should go to that meeting. Because what happens next? Nobody sees it coming. And by the end of this story, you'll question everything you thought you knew about revenge, redemption, and what people will do for the ones they love. Now let's see how deep this rabbit hole goes. Junho didn't go home that night. He stood outside Osei Tower in Gangnam at 2 a.m., staring up at the 90-story building that seemed to pierce the sky. Every floor was dark except the top three. He could see shadows moving behind the glass. People who worked while the rest of Seoul slept. People like her. The rain had stopped, but the streets were still wet. Neon signs reflected in puddles. A few drunk salarymen stumbled past, singing off-key. A street vendor packed up her tekbokki cart. Normal Friday night in the city. But Junho felt like he was standing on the edge of something that would either save his daughter or destroy what was left of his life. He pulled out his phone. No messages from Hannah's hospital. No missed calls from Mrs. Choi, the neighbor who watched Hannah when he worked nights. Good. That meant Hannah was stable. That meant he had time. But how much time? The medical report in his pocket said 6 months. But doctors lied when they were trying to be kind. Junho had seen the way Dr. Kim avoided his eyes during the last appointment. Had heard the careful way he chose his words. 6 months was optimistic. Reality was probably closer to 3. His daughter was dying. And this stranger knew about it. Junho's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. You're standing outside my building like a stalker. Isabella's voice came through smooth and amused. Either come up or go home. You're making my security team nervous. He looked up. Sure enough, there was a camera pointed right at him. How did you get my number? I'm a billionaire, Junho. I can get anything I want. She paused, including medical records that are supposed to be confidential. His blood went cold. You hacked my daughter's files. Hacked is such an ugly word. I prefer acquired. He could hear the smile in her voice. Come up. Penthouse level. We need to talk. It's 2 a.m. I know what time it is. I also know you're not going to sleep tonight anyway. So stop wasting both our time and get in the elevator. The call ended. Junho stood there for another minute, weighing his options. He could walk away. Go home. Pretend this never happened. Find another way to save Hannah. Except there was no other way. He'd exhausted every option. Every loan. Every charity. Every connection. The treatment Hannah needed was experimental, not covered by insurance, and cost 500 million won. He had 340,000 won in his bank account. Junho walked into Osei Tower. The lobby was all marble and glass, with security guards who looked like they could snap him in half. One of them stepped forward, hand already moving toward his weapon. I'm here to see Isabella Osei, Junho said. The guard's expression didn't change, but he spoke into his radio. A moment later, he nodded toward the elevators. Penthouse level. She's expecting you. The elevator ride took forever. Junho watched the numbers climb. 40 floors. 50. 60. His reflection stared back at him from the polished doors. He looked tired. Beaten down. His cream-colored hair needed a cut. His clothes were cheap. His single tattoo, a lotus flower on his forearm that he'd gotten when Hannah was born, seemed faded and sad. Isabella was right. He looked like he'd given up. The doors opened directly into her penthouse. Junho had never seen anything like it. Floor-to-ceiling windows that showed all of Seoul spread out like a circuit board. Furniture that looked like art. A kitchen that could have been in a magazine. Everything was white and black and sharp edges. And in the middle of it all, standing by the window with a glass of wine, was Isabella. She'd changed out of her business suit. Now she wore black silk pajamas that somehow looked more expensive than most people's wedding clothes. Her hair was down, natural curls framing her face. That little star tattoo on her neck seemed to glow in the city lights. She was breathtaking, and she knew it. You came, she said, not turning around. I wasn't sure you would. You didn't give me much choice. Everyone has choices, Junho. She took a sip of wine. You chose to come here. You chose to leave your daughter sleeping at home with a neighbor. You chose to stand outside my building for an hour trying to decide if I'm your salvation or your destruction. Which one are you? Now she turned. Her eyes met his across the enormous room. That depends entirely on you. Junho walked further into the penthouse, his worn sneakers silent on the heated floors. How do you know about Hannah? About her condition? Those records are sealed. Nothing is sealed if you have enough money and the right connections. Isabella set down her wine glass. Your daughter has acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Stage 3. She's been in treatment for 18 months. The standard protocols aren't working. She needs CAR T-cell therapy. Cost, 500 million won. Your insurance won't cover it. No charity will take her case because the success rate is only 40%. You're out of options. Each word hit like a punch. Junho's hands curled into fists. Why do you care? I don't. Her answer was immediate and cold. I don't care about you. I don't care about your daughter. I don't care about your sad story or your desperation or any of it. Then why am I here? Isabella walked toward him slowly. Each step was deliberate. When she stopped, she was close enough to touch. Close enough that he could see the gold flecks in her dark eyes. Because I need something, she said. And you're going to give it to me. In exchange, I'll pay for your daughter's treatment. All of it. Every one. Junho's breath caught. What do you want? Revenge. The word hung between them like smoke. Revenge on who? Isabella's smile was sharp and humorless. On the man who destroyed my family. Who stole everything from us. Who left my mother working herself to death while he built an empire on our backs. Her voice didn't rise, but the rage in it was palpable. His name is Richard Park. He owns Park Industries. You know him. Everyone in Korea knew Richard Park. The self-made billionaire. The philanthropist. The man who'd built a tech empire from nothing and gave millions to charity every year. I know of him, Junho said carefully. He's a fraud. A thief. A monster who destroys lives and then donates money to look like a saint. Isabella's jaw clenched. 20 years ago, he was partners with my father. They were building a software company together. Then one night, my father died in a car accident. Richard took everything. The company, the patents, the money, left my mother with nothing but debt and shame. What does this have to do with me? Richard Park is hosting a charity gala in 3 weeks. The biggest event of the year. Everyone who matters in Seoul will be there. Isabella pulled out her phone and showed him a photo. An elegant older Korean man with silver hair and kind eyes that probably hid something rotten. I need someone to get close to him. Someone he wouldn't suspect. Someone who looks harmless and desperate and grateful. Understanding hit Junho like cold water. You want me to spy on him? I want you to destroy him. Isabella's eyes glittered. I've spent 10 years building my empire. Making connections. Gathering evidence. But I need one more piece. Richard keeps his real files in his home office. Not the public stuff. The real books. The evidence of every crime, every stolen patent, every destroyed life. I need someone to get into his house and copy those files. That's illegal. So is letting a child die because her father can't afford to save her. The words cut deep. Junho's hand went to his pocket, to the medical report he carried everywhere. Why me, he asked. You're a billionaire. You could hire professional spies. Hackers. People who actually know what they're doing. Because Richard Park is paranoid. He vets everyone who comes near him. Investigates anyone new in his circle. Isabella walked back to the window. But he has a weakness. He likes to play savior. Likes to find poor, struggling people and help them so he can feel good about himself. It's how he maintains his image as Seoul's greatest philanthropist. She turned back to face him. In 3 weeks, I'm hosting a charity dinner. Richard will be there. I'm going to introduce you as someone I'm mentoring. A single father working hard to save his sick daughter. He'll eat it up. He'll want to help you. He'll invite you to his home. And once you're inside, I steal his files. You copy them. There's a difference. Junho laughed, but there was no humor in it. This is insane. I'm a waiter. I don't know anything about corporate espionage or whatever this is. I'll get caught. I'll go to prison. And then what happens to Hannah? You won't get caught. Isabella's voice was absolute. Because I'll train you. Teach you everything you need to know. How to talk. How to act. How to be someone Richard Park will trust. And in exchange for 3 weeks of your time and 1 night of breaking into a house, I'll give you 500 million won. The number echoed in the vast penthouse. 500 million won. Hannah's treatment. Hannah's life. This is blackmail, Junho said quietly. This is business. Isabella picked up her wine glass again. I'm offering you a transaction. Your skills for my money. You help me get justice for my family, and I help you save your daughter. Everyone wins. Except Richard Park. Fuck Richard Park. The profanity sounded strange in her elegant voice. He stole 20 years from my family. He deserves worse than what I'm planning. Junho walked to the window. Seoul stretched out below him, millions of lights in the darkness. Somewhere out there, Hannah was sleeping, dreaming, living her last few months without knowing she was dying. What kind of father let his daughter die because he was too afraid to break the law? What kind of man made a deal with someone like Isabella? I need to think about it, he said. You have 12 hours. Isabella's reflection appeared next to his in the window. After that, the offer expires. I'll find someone else. And you'll go back to your diner and watch your daughter die slowly while you serve rich people their coffee and smile and pretend you don't hate every second of your existence. Junho turned to face her. They were close again. Close enough that he could see the faint scar above her left eyebrow. Close enough to notice that her hands were shaking slightly. She wasn't as cold as she pretended to be. Why do you really want to destroy him? Junho asked softly. It's not just about your father's company. There's something else. Isabella's expression flickered. For just a moment, he saw something raw and hurt beneath the Ice Queen exterior. Then it was gone. Get out, she said. You have until 2 p.m. tomorrow. After that, we never speak again. Junho left without another word. But as the elevator doors closed, he saw Isabella's reflection in the glass. She was still standing by the window, holding her wine glass, staring out at the city. And she looked exactly like he felt. Lost, angry, desperate, alone. Hannah was still sleeping when Junho got home at 4 a.m. He stood in the doorway of her tiny bedroom, watching her chest rise and fall. She looked so small in that bed, so fragile. The room was filled with her drawings. Pictures of flowers and animals and families holding hands. One showed a stick figure girl with a stick figure dad, both smiling under a rainbow. The caption read, "Me and Appa forever," in her messy handwriting. Junho sat on the floor next to her bed, his back against the wall, his eyes burning with tears he refused to let fall. What would his wife say if she could see him now? If she could see what he was considering? Sumin had died 3 years ago. Cancer. The same word that was now killing their daughter. She'd made him promise to take care of Hannah, to give her a good life, to never give up. But she'd never said what to do when giving up was the only moral choice. Junho's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I know what you're thinking. That this makes you a bad person. That you're betraying some moral code. But let me ask you something. What code? The one that lets children die because their parents can't afford treatment? The one that rewards monsters like Richard Park while people like us suffer? That code is broken, Junho. I'm just offering you a chance to break it back. Another text came through. A photo. It showed a young African woman, maybe 20 years old, standing next to an older woman who must have been her mother. They were in front of a small shop. Both were smiling. Happy. The older woman had her arm around the girl's shoulders. A third text. This was my mother and me 2 months before she died. She worked herself to death trying to rebuild what Richard Park stole. She died believing she'd failed. Believing our family name meant nothing. I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing this so she can rest knowing someone finally made him pay. Junho stared at the photo for a long time. Then he looked at Hannah, sleeping peacefully, unaware that her father was about to make a deal with the devil. He typed one word. Yes. The response came immediately. Smart choice. Be at my office tomorrow at 2 p.m. Don't be late. And Junho? Or something that doesn't make you look like you've given up on life. We have work to do. Junho deleted the messages, put his phone away, leaned his head back against the wall, and closed his eyes. He'd just agreed to become a spy for a woman he'd met 6 hours ago. A woman who left 0 tip and 0 mercy. A woman who looked at him like he was a weapon she was sharpening for war. And the worst part? He was grateful. Still think you know where this is going? You don't. Because what Junho doesn't know is that Isabella isn't just after revenge. She's after something that will change everything. And when the truth comes out, both of them will have to choose between the mission and something neither of them saw coming. Keep watching. The real story is just beginning. Isabella's office was nothing like her penthouse. Where the penthouse was soft edges and city views, her office was all steel and glass and controlled violence. The desk was black marble. The chairs were modern and uncomfortable by design. The art on the walls was abstract and sharp. Junho arrived at exactly 2 p.m. wearing the only nice clothes he owned. A charcoal suit he'd bought for Sumin's funeral 3 years ago. It was slightly too big now. He'd lost weight. Isabella looked up from her computer. Her eyes swept over him once, clinical and assessing. Better, she said. Not good, but better. She stood. Today she wore a burgundy suit that probably cost more than his car. Her hair was pulled back in a severe bun. The star tattoo on her neck was the only soft thing about her. Follow me. She led him through a maze of hallways to a private conference room. Inside was everything he wasn't expecting. Racks of expensive clothes, makeup stations, a full-length mirror, and a thin man with silver hair who looked him up and down like he was a project. This is Chun, Isabella said. He's going to make you look like someone Richard Park would want to save. Chun circled Junho slowly. Good bone structure. Nice height. The hair is interesting. Cream color is trendy right now. The tattoo. He touched Junho's forearm where the lotus flower was inked. We'll work with it. Make it part of the story. Artistic single father. Sentimental. Richard will love it. I'm standing right here, Junho said. Chun ignored him. 3 weeks isn't much time, but I can do it. Wardrobe will be easy. Mannerisms will take longer. Does he know how to move in high society? No, Isabella said. That's why you're here. For the next 4 hours, Chun put Junho through hell. How to stand. How to sit. How to hold a wine glass. How to make small talk with rich people who didn't care about his answers. How to laugh at jokes that weren't funny. How to be charming without seeming desperate. You're too stiff, Chun said for the 100th time. Relax your shoulders. Rich people don't carry tension like that. They've never had to. Maybe because they've never had to worry about their daughter dying. Junho snapped. The room went silent. Chun looked at Isabella. She looked at Junho with an expression he couldn't read. Take a break, she said quietly. Chun left. Junho stood there, breathing hard, his hands shaking with frustration and exhaustion and fear he couldn't name. Isabella walked to the window. This isn't going to work if you hate everyone you meet. I don't hate everyone. Just rich people. Just people who think money makes them better than everyone else. She turned to face him. Like me. Junho met her eyes. Yes. He expected her to be angry, to throw him out, to tell him the deal was off. Instead, she smiled. A real smile this time. Small and sad and understanding. Good, she said. Hold on to that anger. You're going to need it. She walked closer. You think I don't know what it's like? To be looked down on? To have people assume you're nothing because of where you came from, or what you look like, or how much money you have? You're a billionaire. I'm a black woman in Korea, Isabella said flatly. I speak perfect Korean. I dress like them. I understand every nuance of the culture. And you know what people still call me behind my back? Foreign. Other. Not one of us. Do you know how many business deals I've lost because old Korean men refuse to work with someone who looks like me? Junho didn't say anything. I built my empire by being twice as smart and 3 times as ruthless as everyone else. By making them fear me since they'd never respect me. By becoming so successful they couldn't ignore me anymore. Her voice was quiet but fierce. So don't tell me I don't understand what it's like to be dismissed. I've been dismissed my entire life. The difference between us is that I decided to make them regret it. She walked past him toward the door. Chun will be back in 10 minutes. Get your shit together. Because in 3 weeks, you're going to walk into a room full of people who think they're better than you, and you're going to make them believe you belong there. And if you can't do that, your daughter dies. Simple as that. The door closed behind her. Junho stood there, alone in the conference room, surrounded by expensive clothes and makeup and the trappings of a life he'd never wanted and would never have. He thought about Isabella's words, about the way her voice cracked just slightly when she talked about being dismissed, about the loneliness he'd seen in her eyes last night when she thought he wasn't looking. She wasn't just a cold billionaire playing games with people's lives. She was someone who'd been hurt, who'd lost something she could never get back, who'd built walls so high that nothing could touch her anymore. Just like him. Junho walked to the mirror, looked at himself, the cream-colored hair that made him stand out, the lotus tattoo that reminded him of better times, the tired eyes that had seen too much loss. When Chun came back 10 minutes later, Junho was ready. "Let's do this," he said. Chun smiled. "Now we're getting somewhere." 3 weeks passed in a blur of training and transformation. Chun taught him how to talk about wine without sounding like he'd learned it from Google, how to discuss art and business and politics with just enough knowledge to sound educated, but not so much that he seemed threatening, how to wear expensive suits like they were comfortable instead of like they were borrowed. Isabella taught him about Richard Park, every detail of the man's life, his schedule, his habits, his weaknesses. "He likes to play the benevolent mentor," she said during one of their sessions. "He'll ask about your daughter, act moved by your story, offer to help. Let him. Be grateful, but not desperate. Rich people hate desperate." "How do you know so much about him?" "Because I've been studying him for 10 years. Isabella pulled up files on her computer. Photos, documents, financial records. I know what time he wakes up, what he eats for breakfast, who he's sleeping with. I know everything except the one thing I need, proof." "What kind of proof?" "Proof that he stole my father's work, that he sabotaged my father's car, that he murdered my father and then took everything he'd built." Her voice was cold and certain. "It's all in those files in his home office. Every crime, every betrayal, everything." Junho looked at the photos. Richard Park looked like someone's kind grandfather. Not a killer, not a thief. But then again, monsters rarely looked like monsters. "What happens after I get the files?" Junho asked. "I destroy him. Leak everything to the press. Watch his empire burn. Make sure he goes to prison for what he did." Isabella's eyes glittered. "And you take your daughter and disappear. Start over somewhere else. Live whatever life you want with the time she has left." The time she has left. The words hit like they always did. A reminder that even if everything went perfectly, Hannah was still dying. The treatment gave her years, not decades. She'd still lose her childhood to hospitals and needles and pain. But she'd be alive. That was all that mattered. "Why are you doing this?" Junho asked suddenly. "Really? Not the revenge story. Not the justice for your father. Why are you burning 10 years and millions of one to destroy one man?" Isabella was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Because if I don't, I'll never be able to look at myself in the mirror. I'll always be the girl who let her father's killer get away with it, who was too scared or too weak or too comfortable to make him pay." She looked at Junho. "Wouldn't you do anything to make sure Hannah never has to feel that way? That she never has to carry that weight?" Junho thought about Sumin, about the promises he'd made to her, about the man he used to be before grief and poverty and desperation had hollowed him out. "Yes," he said quietly, "I would. Then we understand each other." For the first time since they'd met, something passed between them. Not friendship, not trust, but recognition. Two people who'd lost everything and were willing to burn the world down to get even a piece of it back. "The gala is tomorrow night," Isabella said. "Are you ready?" "No." "Good. If you were ready, I'd be worried." She stood up. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow changes everything." Junho went home, checked on Hannah, who was sleeping soundly. Mrs. Choi had fed her dinner and helped with homework. Everything was normal. Everything was fine. Except nothing was fine. Tomorrow night, Junho would walk into a room full of Korea's elite. He'd smile and charm and lie his way into Richard Park's trust. And then he'd become a criminal. All to save his daughter. All because a woman with a star tattoo and a heart full of rage had looked at him and seen a weapon she could use. Junho lay down in bed but didn't sleep. Instead, he stared at the ceiling and wondered if this was what rock bottom felt like, or if there were still deeper places to fall. The gala was exactly as awful as Junho had imagined. Held at the Grand Hyatt in Hanam-dong. It was a sea of designer dresses and custom suits, and people air-kissing each other while secretly calculating net worth. Champagne flowed. Classical music played. Everyone smiled with teeth that were too white and eyes that were too calculating. Junho walked in wearing a midnight blue Tom Ford suit that Isabella had bought him. His cream-colored hair was styled perfectly. His single lotus tattoo was visible on his forearm. Shin's idea, to make him look artistic and interesting. He looked like he belonged. He felt like a fraud. Isabella found him near the entrance. She wore a stunning red gown that hugged every curve, her natural curls styled in an elegant updo. The star tattoo on her neck stood out against her dark skin. She looked like a queen. Every head turned when she walked by. "Stay close," she murmured. "Richard is here. I'll introduce you in exactly 17 minutes. That's how long it takes for the first round of networking to end and the second to begin. You need to catch him between obligations when he's most receptive. You've timed this. I've timed everything." She handed him a glass of champagne. "Sip it. Don't drink it. And for God's sake, smile. You look like you're about to rob someone." "I am about to rob someone." "Then at least look happy about it." Junho forced a smile. Isabella studied him for a moment, then reached up and adjusted his collar. Her fingers brushed his neck. The touch was brief and impersonal, but Junho felt it like electricity. "Better," she said softly. Then louder, "Remember, you're a struggling single father I'm mentoring through my charity foundation. You work at a diner, but you're trying to better yourself. Your daughter is sick. You're grateful for any help. You're humble, but not pathetic. Got it, got it." And Junho, her dark eyes met his. "Don't fuck this up. We only get one shot." Then she was gone, gliding through the crowd like she owned it. Which, knowing Isabella, she probably did. Junho spent the next 17 minutes making small talk with people whose names he immediately forgot. A CEO of something. A politician's wife. A young heir who bragged about his Porsche collection. Everyone was polite. Everyone was fake. Everyone reminded him why he hated rich people. Then Isabella was back, Richard Park at her side. Up close, Richard Park looked even more grandfatherly than in photos. Silver hair perfectly styled. Kind eyes that crinkled when he smiled. A warm handshake and a voice that made you want to trust him. Junho understood immediately why this man had gotten away with murder for 20 years. Because nobody who looked like this could possibly be a monster. "Richard, this is Junho," Isabella said smoothly. "He's one of the participants in my mentorship program. Single father, working hard, just trying to give his daughter a better life." Richard's smile widened. He shook Junho's hand with both of his, warm and paternal. "How wonderful. Isabella told me about your situation. Your daughter is sick?" "Leukemia," Junho said, and he didn't have to fake the pain in his voice. "She needs treatment we can't afford." "How terrible." Richard's face showed perfect sympathy. No parent should have to choose between their child's health and bankruptcy. "Tell me about her. What's she like?" And just like Isabella predicted, Richard Park ate it up. Asked questions. Listened with apparent genuine interest. Talked about his own grandchildren. Mentioned that he knew some excellent doctors. Suggested they should talk more about getting Hannah into a better treatment program. "Why don't you come to my house for lunch next week?" Richard said. "Bring your daughter if she's feeling up to it. My wife loves meeting young children, and we can discuss how I might be able to help with the medical costs." Junho felt Isabella tense beside him. This was it. The invitation they'd been working toward. "That's incredibly generous," Junho said. "But I couldn't possibly." "Nonsense." Richard waved off his objection. "I insist. How does Tuesday work?" "Around noon." "Tuesday is perfect." They exchanged numbers. Richard patted Junho's shoulder one more time, said something kind and forgettable, and moved on to the next conversation. Isabella waited exactly 30 seconds before leaning in close. You did it, she breathed. He bought it completely. Yeah. Junho felt sick. Great. He excused himself and found a bathroom, locked himself in a stall, sat down, and put his head in his hands. He'd just smiled and lied to a man who was offering to help save his daughter's life. A man who might actually be the kind philanthropist he pretended to be. A man who Junho was planning to rob based on the word of a woman he'd known for 3 weeks. What if Isabella was wrong? What if Richard Park was innocent? What if Junho destroyed a good man's life for nothing? His phone buzzed. Isabella, stop spiraling. I can see you from here. Get out of the bathroom. We have work to do. Junho took a deep breath, splashed water on his face, looked at himself in the mirror. His cream-colored hair was perfect. His suit was immaculate. His tattoo peeked out from his sleeve, a reminder of the life he'd had before everything fell apart. He didn't recognize the man staring back at him. When Junho returned to the ballroom, Isabella was talking to a group of investors. She caught his eye, and something passed between them. Not quite understanding, not quite trust, but something. The rest of the gala passed in a blur of fake smiles and rehearsed stories. By the time Junho left at midnight, his face hurt from smiling and his soul felt bruised from lying. Isabella caught him at the valet stand. You did well tonight, she said. I feel like shit. Good. That means you still have a conscience. She handed the valet her ticket. Most people lose that after the first lie. You're stronger than you think. Or weaker. There's no difference when you're desperate. Her car pulled up, a matte black Bentley that probably cost more than Junho would make in 10 lifetimes. Tuesday is the real test. Richard's house has security cameras, but they're old. Easy to loop. I'll have someone handle it remotely while you're inside. All you need to do is get to his office, plug in this. She handed him what looked like a regular USB drive. And wait 3 minutes while it copies everything. That's it. That's it. Isabella opened her car door. 3 minutes. Then you walk out. Take the money. Save your daughter. And never think about me or Richard Park or any of this again. She started to get in the car, then paused. Junho. Yeah. Thank you. Her voice was quieter than he'd ever heard it. For doing this. For helping me. I know you don't trust me. I know you think I'm using you. And you're right. But, thank you anyway. Before he could respond, she was gone. Red taillights disappearing into Seoul's midnight traffic. Junho took the bus home. 45 minutes of fluorescent lights and tired faces and the smell of old coffee. Back to his world. Back to reality. When he got home, Hannah was awake, sitting up in bed with a book in her lap. Appa, she smiled, but he could see how tired she was. How the effort of just sitting up drained her. You're home late. Was work busy? Very busy, sweetheart. Junho sat on the edge of her bed. Why are you awake? It's past midnight. Couldn't sleep. She showed him the book, a fantasy novel about dragons and magic. This part is really good. The hero has to make a hard choice. He can save his village, but he has to lie to his best friend. What do you think he should do? Junho's throat closed. What do you think he should do? Hannah thought about it seriously. I think he should save the village. Even if lying is bad. Because sometimes you have to do something bad to do something good. Right. Right? Junho whispered. Sometimes you do. She yawned. Will you stay until I fall asleep? Of course. He sat with her, holding her small hand, watching her eyes drift closed. Her breathing evened out. Peaceful. Trusting. She had no idea what her father was about to do. What lines he was about to cross. What kind of man he was becoming to save her. Maybe that was for the best. Junho's phone buzzed softly. Another message from Isabella. I know what you're thinking. That you're betraying everything you believe in. That you're no better than the people you hate. But let me tell you something my mother told me before she died. The world isn't fair. It never has been. So stop waiting for fairness and start taking what you deserve. Junho stared at the message for a long time. Then he deleted it and went to bed. Tuesday arrived too fast. Junho dressed in casual, expensive clothes, designer jeans, and a cashmere sweater that Isabella had bought him. He looked successful, but not threatening. Artistic, but not irresponsible. Exactly the kind of project Richard Park loved. Hannah was having a good day. Her color was better. Her energy was up. When Junho told her they were going to lunch at a nice man's house, she got excited. Will there be other kids? She asked while he helped her get dressed. Maybe. Mr. Park has grandchildren. Do you think they'll like me? Everyone likes you, sweetheart. Junho kissed the top of her head. You're the best person I know. They took a taxi to Richard Park's house in Songbuk-dong, one of Seoul's most exclusive neighborhoods. The houses here didn't have addresses you could Google. They had gates and walls and security that kept the rest of the world out. Richard's home was stunning. Traditional Hanok architecture mixed with modern luxury. Beautiful gardens. A koi pond. Everything tasteful and elegant and worth more than Junho's entire life. Richard himself answered the door. He wore casual clothes, but somehow made them look dignified. His smile was warm and genuine as he welcomed them inside. Junho. And this must be Hannah. He crouched down to her level. Your father has told me so much about you. Do you like art? I have a studio where my grandchildren paint sometimes. Hannah's eyes lit up. Really? Really? My wife Soo-young is already setting up supplies. Would you like to paint while your father and I talk? She looked at Junho for permission. He nodded. She followed a kind older woman, Soo-young, presumably, down a hallway, already chattering about her favorite colors. And just like that, Junho was alone with the man he was about to betray. She's lovely, Richard said, leading Junho through the house. Reminds me of my own daughter at that age. So full of life even when life is hard. He glanced back. Isabella mentioned the treatment Hannah needs is experimental. CAR T-cell therapy. Yes. Expensive. Very. They reached a sitting room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the garden. Richard poured tea with practiced grace. I've been thinking about your situation, Richard said. And I'd like to help. Not as charity. I know you're too proud for that. But as an investment. In you. In your daughter's future. Junho's stomach twisted. Mr. Park. Please, call me Richard. He handed Junho a cup of tea. I started from nothing, you know. People don't remember that. They see the success and forget the struggle. But I remember what it was like to be desperate. To have people look down on me. To feel like the world had already decided I didn't matter. He sat across from Junho. Someone gave me a chance once. A man I'd never met. He loaned me the money to start my first business. Said he believed in me. That loan changed my life. So now I do the same. I find people who are working hard, who deserve a break, and I give them one. Junho felt like he was drowning. That's incredibly generous. It's selfish, actually. Richard smiled. Helping people makes me feel good. Makes me feel like my success means something beyond just numbers in a bank account. You'd be doing me a favor by letting me help. This was the moment. The moment Junho was supposed to express tearful gratitude. Accept the help. Get closer to Richard so he could eventually betray him. Instead, he heard himself say, "Why?" Richard's eyebrows raised. "Why what? Why me? You don't know me. You don't know me anything. There are thousands of people in Seoul who need help. Why choose me specifically?" For the first time, something flickered in Richard's kind expression. Something that might have been surprise. Or respect. Because Isabella Osei recommended you, Richard said carefully. And despite our complicated history, I trust her judgment about people. Complicated history? She didn't tell you? Richard set down his tea. Isabella and I were business partners once. Long ago. Before she became the success she is now. We had a falling out. She blames me for some things that happened to her family. Things he paused. Things I couldn't prevent. Junho's heart hammered. What things? That's between Isabella and me. Richard's voice was gentle but firm. What matters is that she's clearly still angry. And I suspect, forgive me for being blunt, that she's using you to get to me somehow. Am I wrong? The question hung in the air like a blade. Junho could lie. Should lie? That was the plan. Instead, he said nothing. Richard nodded slowly. I thought so. He stood and walked to the window. I'm going to tell you something, Junho. Something I've never told anyone. and then you can decide what kind of man you want to be. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, 20 years ago, I was partners with Isabella's father, Marcus Osei. Brilliant man. Visionary. We were building something revolutionary together. Software that would have changed everything. Junho's blood went cold. Isabella had specifically said not to trust anything Richard told him. That he was a liar and a manipulator. But something in Richard's voice sounded true. Marcus and I were like brothers, Richard continued. We'd stay up all night coding, dreaming, planning. Then one night, he came to me. Said he discovered something. That someone was embezzling from our company. That we needed to investigate before we took on new investors. Richard turned back to face Junho. I told him to wait. To be careful. That accusations like that needed proof. But Marcus couldn't wait. He was always impulsive. He confronted the person he suspected, our CFO, without any evidence. Just suspicion. What happened? The CFO sued us for defamation. Tied us up in legal battles. Our investors got spooked and pulled out. The company started falling apart. Richard's voice was heavy with old grief. Marcus was devastated. Blamed himself. Started drinking. Stopped coming to work. And then one night. He didn't finish. He didn't need to. His car accident wasn't an accident. It was. He was drunk. He drove into a wall at 80 miles per hour. The police said it was instant. Richard's eyes were wet. But it might as well have been suicide. He'd given up. And I couldn't save him. Junho sat very still. What happened to the company? It died with him. I tried to keep it going, but without Marcus, it wasn't the same. Eventually, I sold the assets and used the money to start something new. Something that became Park Industries. I've spent every day of the last 20 years trying to honor Marcus's memory. Trying to make something he'd be proud of. Isabella thinks you stole from her father. That you murdered him. I know. Richard's smile was sad. I tried to explain. Tried to show her the truth. But grief makes people need someone to blame. And I was there. The easy target. So she built her empire on hate for me. And I've lived with that hate for 20 years. Hoping someday she'd see the truth. Junho felt like the ground was tilting beneath him. How do I know you're telling the truth? You don't. Richard walked to a desk and pulled out a folder. But you can look at these. Police reports from Marcus's accident. Financial records from our company. Legal documents from the lawsuit. Everything Isabella thinks I destroyed to hide my crimes. I've kept it all, hoping someday she'd be ready to see it. He handed the folder to Junho. Take it. Show it to Isabella. Let her decide what she wants to believe. And then you decide what you want to do. Junho's hands shook as he took the folder. Inside were decades of documents. Papers yellowed with age. Photos of Richard and Marcus smiling together, arms around each other's shoulders. Brothers. Friends. Or the perfect lie. Why are you showing me this? Junho asked. You must know Isabella sent me here to spy on you. To steal files from your office. Why help me? Because I'm tired, Richard said simply. Tired of the hate. Tired of carrying Marcus's ghost. Tired of watching Isabella destroy herself with revenge that won't bring her father back. He met Junho's eyes. And because your daughter deserves better than to have her father become a criminal for a woman who's using his desperation against him. Footsteps in the hallway. Hannah appeared, paint on her hands and a huge smile on her face. Appa, look what I made. She held up a painting. Clumsy but beautiful. A man and a girl holding hands under a rainbow. It's us, she said proudly. Mrs. Soo-young helped me with the rainbow. Junho pulled her into a hug, the folder heavy in his other hand. It's perfect, sweetheart. You're perfect. Richard watched them with something soft in his expression. Junho, I meant what I said about helping with Hannah's treatment. The offer stands regardless of what you decide to do. Just think about it. That's all I ask. They left an hour later. Hannah chattering about the paints and Mrs. Soo-young and the koi in the pond. Junho carrying the folder that weighed nothing and everything. His phone buzzed the moment they were in the taxi. Isabella, how did it go? Did you get into his office? Did you copy the files? Junho stared at the messages, then at the folder in his lap, then at Hannah beside him, still talking happily about her painting. He had a choice to make. Trust Isabella, the woman who'd bought him, trained him, turned him into a weapon for her revenge. Or trust Richard, the man who'd just shown him evidence that contradicted everything Isabella believed. One of them was lying, and Junho had no idea which one. Comment right now. Team Isabella or Team Richard? Because the choice Junho makes in the next 60 seconds will change everything. And trust me, you haven't seen the twist coming. Keep watching. This is where it gets brutal. Junho didn't answer Isabella's messages. Instead, he took Hannah home, made her favorite dinner, and helped her with homework like it was any other Tuesday. She went to bed early, tired but happy. The painting was already on their refrigerator. After she was asleep, Junho spread Richard's documents across their tiny kitchen table. He read everything. Every police report, every financial record, every email, every piece of evidence Richard claimed proved his innocence. It all looked legitimate. But so did Isabella's version of events. Two stories. Same facts. Completely different meanings. At 11 p.m., Junho called Isabella. She answered immediately. Why haven't you responded? What happened? I need to see you. Now. Did something go wrong? Just tell me where you are. 20 minutes later, Junho stood in Isabella's penthouse. She was in casual clothes for once. Black silk pajamas that somehow still looked elegant. Her natural hair was down. The star tattoo on her neck seemed to pulse with her heartbeat. You didn't get the files, she said. Not a question. A statement. Richard knew, Junho said. He knew you sent me. He knew everything. Isabella's expression went deadly calm. What did he tell you? That he and your father were friends. That your father accused someone of embezzling without proof. That it destroyed the company. That your father drove drunk and died in an accident. Junho pulled out Richard's folder. He gave me these. Said they prove he didn't kill your father. And you believed him. Her voice was flat. Cold. I don't know what to believe. Isabella walked to her window. Stood there with her back to him. When she spoke again, her voice shook. Do you want to know what really happened? Not Richard's sanitized version. The truth. Yes. She turned. Her eyes were wet, but her voice was steel. My father and Richard were partners. They were building something revolutionary. Then my father discovered that Richard was selling their patents to competitors, stealing the work they'd done together and profiting from it behind my father's back. Richard said. I know what Richard said. He's had 20 years to perfect the lie. Isabella's hands clenched. My father confronted him. Richard threatened to destroy him. Said he'd make sure my father never worked in tech again. That he'd ruin our family name. She pulled out her own phone. Showed Junho a photo. A handwritten letter. The paper was old. The ink faded. This is the last thing my father wrote before he died, Isabella said. He left it for my mother. Never got to mail it. The police found it in his car after the accident. Junho took the phone. Read the letter. My dearest Sarah, if you're reading this, I'm already gone. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I can't let Richard destroy what we built. Can't let him steal our dreams and get away with it. Tonight, I'm going to confront him one last time. I have proof now. Real proof. And either he'll confess or I'll take it to the authorities. I know it's dangerous. He's threatened me before. But some things are worth the risk. Take care of Isabella. Tell her I love her. Tell her to be brave. And tell her never to let men like Richard Park win. Marcus. Junho's hands shook. This doesn't prove Richard killed him. It proves Richard threatened him. It proves my father had proof of his crimes. And it proves that the night he died, he was going to expose Richard. Isabella took her phone back. My father's car crash wasn't investigated properly. The police ruled it an accident within hours. No toxicology report. No examination of the car's mechanics. Nothing. Because Richard Park had connections. Money. Power. You're saying Richard sabotaged the car. I'm saying my father left that dinner meeting alive and determined. 2 hours later, he drove into a wall. And Richard Park became a billionaire off my father's work, while my mother worked herself to death trying to pay his debts. Junho sat down heavily. His head was spinning. How do I know you're not lying? How do I know this letter is real? You don't. Isabella's voice broke. Just like I don't know if Richard's documents are real. We're both asking you to trust us. To believe our version. To choose a side. I don't want to choose a side. I want the truth. The truth is that one of us is a liar and one of us is a victim. And you have to figure out which is which. She walked closer. But let me ask you something, Junho. Who benefits from you trusting Richard? He offered to pay for Hannah's treatment, right? Told you he'd help you regardless of what you did. Junho said nothing. He's buying you, Isabella said. Just like he bought the police. Just like he's bought everyone else. He's showing you kindness so you'll choose him. So you'll walk away from me. So his crimes stay hidden. Or you're using my daughter's illness to manipulate me into helping you destroy an innocent man. The words hung between them. Cold. True. Isabella flinched. You think I'm that cruel? I think you're desperate enough to do anything for revenge. Just like I'm desperate enough to do anything for Hannah. Junho stood up. We're both using each other. Let's not pretend this is anything else. Fine. Isabella's voice went cold again. You want honesty? Here it is. I need those files from Richard's office. They're the proof I need to expose him. And yes, I'm using your situation to get them. But I'm also paying you $500 million and saving your daughter's life. That's not manipulation. That's a fair trade. Nothing about this is fair. No, it's not. She walked closer until they were inches apart. But it's all we have. So you need to decide. Do you trust the kind old man who's offering you everything you need? Or do you trust the angry woman who's offering you a chance to be something more than Richard Park's grateful charity case? Junho could smell her perfume. Could see the gold flecks in her dark eyes. Could feel the heat radiating off her skin. I need time, he said. You have 12 hours. Tomorrow at noon, Richard is meeting with investors. His house will be empty except for his wife. That's our window. After that, security changes and we lose the chance. Isabella's jaw clenched. 12 hours, Junho. Then you choose. Save your daughter by helping me get justice. Or save your daughter by becoming Richard Park's pet project. What if I refuse both options? Take Hannah and disappear? Then she dies in 6 months, and you spend the rest of your life wondering if you could have saved her. Isabella's voice was brutal. There is no option 3. There's only which devil you're willing to dance with. Junho left without another word. He walked home instead of taking the bus. Needed the cold air. Needed to think. Both stories made sense. Both had evidence. Both could be true. Or both could be elaborate lies designed to manipulate him. When he got home, Mrs. Choi was waiting in the hallway. Her face was pale. Junho SSI, I tried calling you. The hospital called. Hannah collapsed at school today. They ran tests. Her white blood cell count is dropping faster than expected. Dr. Kim said if she doesn't start the new treatment within 3 weeks. She didn't finish. She didn't need to. 3 weeks. Not 6 months. 3 weeks. Junho's phone buzzed. Richard Park. Junho, I heard about Hannah. I've already contacted the treatment center. They can start her therapy next Monday if you agree. All costs covered. Please let me help. Another buzz. Isabella. Time's up. I need your answer now. Yes or no. Help me or walk away. 2 messages. 2 offers. 2 paths. Junho looked at his daughter's bedroom door. Thought about Sumin. About the promises he'd made. About the man he used to be before desperation hollowed him out. He typed a response to Isabella. I'm in. Tomorrow at noon. Tell me what to do. Then he blocked Richard Park's number. Not because he believed Isabella. Not because he trusted her. But because he'd already crossed too many lines to turn back now. And if he was going to hell, he might as well earn it. The next morning, Junho kissed Hannah goodbye and told her he'd be back soon. Where are you going, Appa? Work. But the nice kind. The kind that will help you get better. She hugged him tight. I love you. I love you more, sweetheart. Always. At 11:45 a.m., Junho stood outside Richard Park's house. Isabella's voice came through the earpiece she'd given him. Security cameras are looped. You have 15 minutes before Soo-young comes back from her morning walk. Get to the office. 2nd floor. 3rd door on the left. Plant the device. Wait 3 minutes. Leave. What if something goes wrong? Then you run and hope you're fast enough. Her voice softened slightly. Junho, thank you. For trusting me. For doing this. He almost told her he didn't trust her. That he was doing this because he had no other choice. That after today, he never wanted to see her again. Instead, he said, let's just get this over with. The house was unlocked. Isabella had arranged that somehow. Junho slipped inside. The place was silent except for the tick of an expensive clock somewhere. He found the office easily. Richard's personal space. Walls lined with books and awards and photos of his family. A massive desk with a computer that probably held every secret Isabella wanted. Junho pulled out the USB drive. Plugged it in. The screen flickered to life. Copying files, 0%. This was it. The point of no return. Once those files copied, Junho became a criminal. A thief. Everything he'd promised Sumin he'd never be. But Hannah would live. That was all that mattered. The percentage climbed. 15%. 30%. 45%. Junho's hands shook. His heart hammered. 75%. 90%. Then he heard it. A voice from downstairs. Yobo? Are you home already? Richard Park. He wasn't supposed to be here. The meeting. Isabella said he'd be at a meeting. Footsteps on the stairs. 95%. Junho? Is that you? Richard appeared in the doorway. His kind face shifted through confusion, understanding, and finally, deep sadness. I see, he said quietly. She convinced you. 100%. Copy complete. Junho pulled out the drive. Stood there with the evidence of his betrayal in his hand. I'm sorry, he said. And meant it. Are you? Richard walked into the office slowly. Or are you just sorry you got caught? Your meeting? There was no meeting. Isabella was feeding you bad information. I knew she'd try something, so I came home early. Richard looked older suddenly. Tired. This is what she does, Junho. She finds desperate people and turns them into weapons. You're not the first. You won't be the last. Junho backed toward the door. I need to leave. Go ahead. Take the files. Give them to Isabella. Let her destroy me. Richard sat down in his chair. But know this, whatever she promised you, she won't deliver. Once she has what she wants, you'll be disposable. Just another person she used and discarded. You don't know that. I know because she did it to the last person who helped her. And the one before that. I've been watching her hurt people for 20 years, Junho. All in the name of justice for a father who died in an accident she refuses to accept. Richard's voice was gentle. Kind. You're not a bad person. You're just desperate. I understand. But this won't end the way you think. Junho ran. Down the stairs. Through the hallway. Out the door. He ran until his lungs burned and his legs shook and he couldn't run anymore. Only then did he pull out his phone. No messages from Isabella. No instructions on where to meet. Nothing. He tried calling her. Straight to voicemail. He tried the office number. Disconnected. He went to Osei Tower. The security guard looked at him with confusion. Miss Osei? She left for Singapore this morning. Indefinite trip. Didn't leave any messages. Junho stood in that lobby, the USB drive in his pocket, and felt reality crash down. She was gone. She'd gotten what she wanted and disappeared. Just like Richard said she would. His phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Junho SSI? This is Dr. Kim from the hospital. I have some news about Hannah's treatment options. His heart stopped. Yes. We received an anonymous donation this morning. 500 million won. With instructions that it be used specifically for Hannah's CAR T-cell therapy. The donor wanted to remain confidential, but they've covered everything. She can start treatment next week. Junho couldn't speak. Junho SSI? Are you there? Who made the donation? I can't say, but they also left a message for you. Would you like me to read it? Yes. Dr. Kim cleared his throat. It says, you kept your end. I'm keeping mine. Get her well. And Junho? I'm sorry. For all of it. The line went dead. Junho stood in that lobby, the USB drive burning a hole in his pocket, and realized he'd never actually known Isabella at all. Had she used him? Yes. Had she manipulated him? Yes. Had she paid for his daughter's treatment like she promised? Also yes. Was Richard Park innocent or guilty? He still didn't know. All he knew was that Hannah would live, would get her treatment, would have a future, and that he'd sold his soul to a woman with a star tattoo and secrets he'd never understand. You thought this was a story about revenge? About choosing sides? You were wrong. Keep watching. Because in 60 seconds, everything changes again. And the person Junho thought he knew doesn't exist. This isn't over. Not even close. 3 months passed. Hannah's treatment was working. Her white blood cell count stabilized. Her color came back. Her energy returned. Dr. Kim called it miraculous. Junho called it a reprieve. He never heard from Isabella again. Never saw her on the news. Never found any trace of her beyond the money she'd paid and the promise she'd kept. The USB drive sat in his drawer, unopened. He couldn't bring himself to look at what was on it. Couldn't decide if Richard Park was a killer or a victim. Couldn't figure out who had been telling the truth. Maybe they both had been. Maybe they both had been lying. Maybe truth was just another story people told themselves to justify their choices. Junho went back to work at the diner, kept his head down, served coffee and smiled and pretended the last 3 months hadn't happened. Then one night, Richard Park walked in. He sat in Junho's section, ordered coffee and pie, waited patiently while Junho worked up the courage to approach. Mr. Park. Junho. Richard's smile was tired but not unkind. Sit down, please. Junho sat. How's Hannah? Better. The treatment is working. I'm glad. Richard sipped his coffee. I heard about the anonymous donation. I'm guessing you know who it was from. Junho said nothing. Isabella kept her word, Richard continued. I'll give her that. She always does, in her own way, even when it destroys her. He pulled out a folder. Not the one from before. A new one. I want to show you something. You don't have to look, but I think you should. Junho took the folder. Inside were medical records, financial documents, police reports, all about Isabella Osei. 10 years ago, Richard said quietly, Isabella's mother Sarah died of cancer. The same cancer your wife died of. Sarah worked 3 jobs trying to pay for treatment that insurance wouldn't cover. She died anyway. Alone. Broke. Ashamed. Junho's hands shook. Isabella blamed me, Richard continued. Said I'd stolen her father's money. That if she'd had his inheritance, she could have saved her mother. She built her empire on that rage. Made billions. And then... He paused. Then she started finding people like you. People with sick children. People who needed money for treatment. And she helped them. What? The anonymous donation to Hannah's hospital? That wasn't the first. Isabella has paid for treatment for over 50 children in the last 5 years. All anonymous. All people she found through programs like her fake mentorship. All people she used to get close to someone she wanted to investigate or destroy. Richard leaned forward. She uses desperate parents to infiltrate her enemies' lives. Gets the information she needs. Then pays for their children's treatment and disappears. You're not the first, Junho. You're just the latest. Junho felt sick. Why are you telling me this? Because the files you stole for her? They were encrypted. Useless without a password I change every day. She knew that. She never expected to actually get anything from them. Then why did she have me steal them? Richard's expression was infinitely sad. Because she needed to prove to herself that I'm still the monster she needs me to be. That people will still betray me. That her crusade is justified. He stood up. Isabella isn't my enemy, Junho. She's my daughter. The world stopped. What? Sarah Osei wasn't Marcus's widow. She was his partner. Isabella is Marcus's daughter, but she's also mine. We had an affair. Sarah got pregnant. Marcus never knew. Richard's voice broke. When Marcus died, I wanted to take care of them. Wanted to claim Isabella as mine. But Sarah refused. Said I destroyed her family. That I'd taken everything. She raised Isabella alone and taught her to hate me. Junho couldn't breathe. Isabella doesn't know, Richard continued. Sarah never told her. And I've kept the secret because I'd rather have her hate me than know the truth. that her crusade for revenge is against her own father. He pulled out money, enough to cover the coffee and pie and then some, left it on the table. I'm telling you this because someone should know. Because if something happens to me, someone should be able to tell her the truth. He walked toward the door, then stopped. And Junho, thank you for helping her feel like she's still fighting. She needs that, even if it's destroying her. Then he was gone. Junho sat in that diner booth for an hour. The coffee going cold. The world tilting on its axis. Everything Isabella believed was a lie. Everything she'd built was based on false memory and manipulated rage. The man she hated was the father she'd never known. And Junho was the only person who knew the truth. 6 months later, Hannah was in full remission. The doctors said she had years, maybe decades, maybe a full life. Junho took her to the beach. They built sand castles and collected shells and ate ice cream until they were sick. Appa? Hannah asked, her face sticky with chocolate. Why are you crying? Happy tears, sweetheart. Just happy tears. That night, after Hannah was asleep, Junho pulled out his phone. Found the number he'd saved months ago. The one Isabella had texted from before she disappeared. He typed a message, I know the truth. About Richard. About everything. If you want to know it too, meet me at the diner. Tomorrow night. 8 p.m. Come alone. He hesitated, his finger hovering over send. Then he deleted the message. Some truths were too cruel to share. Some lies were kinder than reality. Isabella had her crusade. Richard had his guilt. And Junho had his daughter, alive and laughing and building sandcastles on a beach she might never have seen. He deleted the number entirely. Threw the USB drive into the ocean. Let the waves take it. But 3 days later, on a Tuesday morning while Junho was making Hannah breakfast, there was a knock on the door. He opened it. Isabella stood there. She looked different. Thinner. Her natural hair was shorter. The expensive clothes were gone, replaced by jeans and a simple sweater. But the star tattoo on her neck was still there, still pulsing with her heartbeat. And her eyes, those dark, calculating eyes, looked haunted. You tried to contact me, she said. No greeting. No explanation for 6 months of silence. The message didn't send, but I have alerts on your number. I saw you typed something, then deleted it. Junho's heart hammered. How? I'm a billionaire, remember? I can do anything. But her voice lacked the old confidence. She looked past him into the apartment. Is she here? Hannah. In her room. Is she? She's fine. The treatment worked. She's in remission. Something broke in Isabella's expression. Relief. Grief. Guilt. All of it at once. Good, she whispered. That's good. They stood in the doorway, neither speaking. The morning sounds of soul filling the silence. Traffic. Voices. Life continuing. Why are you here? Junho asked finally. Because you know something. Isabella's voice was barely audible. Something you almost told me, but decided I couldn't handle. And I need to know what it is. No, you don't. Yes, I do. Her eyes met his. I've spent 6 months trying to decode those files you stole. They're encrypted. Useless. I hired the best hackers in the world. No one can break Richard's security. She laughed bitterly. I used you for nothing. Manipulated you, risked your freedom, paid for your daughter's treatment. All for files I can't even open. Then why come back? Because I can't stop. Her voice cracked. I can't stop hating him. Can't stop seeing his face when I close my eyes. Can't stop hearing my mother's voice telling me he destroyed us. It's eating me alive, Junho. The rage. The need for revenge. It's all I have left. Junho looked at this woman who'd crashed into his life like a meteor. Who'd turned him into a thief and a liar. Who'd saved his daughter and disappeared like smoke. She wasn't a monster. She wasn't a villain. She was just broken. Like him. Like everyone. Come in, he said. Isabella stepped inside. Looked around at the tiny apartment. The cheap furniture. The drawings on the refrigerator. Hannah's shoes by the door. I grew up in a place like this, she said softly. Before my father died. Before everything fell apart. My mother used to make me breakfast before school. We didn't have much, but we were happy. She sat on the worn couch. put her face in her hands. I don't remember how to be happy anymore, she whispered. I only remember how to be angry. Junho sat beside her, not touching, just present. What did you want to tell me? Isabella asked. What's the truth you think I can't handle? This was the moment. The choice. Tell her and destroy whatever was left of her. Or lie and let her keep her rage, her purpose, her reason to exist. Junho thought about Hannah, about Sumin, about all the lies people tell to protect each other from unbearable truths. Richard Park isn't who you think he is, he said carefully. I know. He's worse. No. Junho took a breath. He's your father. Silence. Heavy and absolute. Isabella's head came up slowly. What? Richard Park is your biological father. He and your mother had an affair. She got pregnant. Your father, Marcus, never knew. When Marcus died, Richard wanted to claim you. Your mother refused. She taught you to hate him because she hated him. For the affair. For being alive when Marcus was dead. For everything. Isabella's face had gone completely blank. You're lying. I'm not. Richard told you this? Yes. And you believed him? She stood up, started pacing. This is another manipulation. Another lie. He's trying to. Why would he lie about that? Junho asked quietly. What does he gain? He gains. Isabella stopped. He gains. She couldn't finish. Because there was no answer. Your mother never told you. Junho continued. She let you build your entire life on hating a man who's been trying to protect you from the truth. Who's been watching you from a distance? Who's been? He pulled out a folded paper from his pocket. Who's been anonymously donating to every charity you support? Who's been investing in companies you build? Who's been proud of you even though you hate him? Isabella took the paper, unfolded it. It was a bank statement. Richard Park's personal account. Decades of donations. All to organizations Isabella had founded. All anonymous. All massive. Her hands shook. No. He's been your silent partner for 20 years. Supporting you. Helping you build your empire. Never taking credit. Never asking for recognition. No. Isabella's voice broke. No, no, no. He let you hate him because it was easier than telling you the truth. That your mother's memory was built on a lie. That everything you thought you knew about your family was wrong. Isabella sank back onto the couch. The paper fell from her hands. She stared at nothing, her entire world collapsing. My crusade, she whispered. My life's work. Everything I've built. It's all based on a lie, Junho finished gently. They sat in silence for a long time. Then Isabella said, I used 53 people like you. Found desperate parents. Helped their children. Used them to get close to people I wanted to investigate. 53 families. Her voice was hollow. I told myself I was doing good. Saving children while destroying monsters. But I was just using them. Using their desperation. Using their love. You saved 53 children's lives, Junho said. That's not nothing. It's not enough. She looked at him. How do you forgive yourself? For the things you do to survive? For the choices you make when you're desperate? I don't know. Junho's voice was honest. I think you just keep going. Keep trying. Keep hoping that the good outweighs the bad. Hannah appeared in the doorway. 9 years old. Hair messy from sleep. Eyes curious. Appa, who's the pretty lady? Isabella's breath caught. She looked at Hannah like she was seeing a ghost. Hi, she said softly. I'm Isabella. I'm a friend of your father's. Hannah walked over, unafraid. She studied Isabella with the blunt curiosity of children. You have a pretty tattoo. Is it a star? Yes. Isabella's voice cracked. My mother loved stars. She said they were proof that even in darkness, there's light. My Appa says the same thing. Hannah smiled. Are you staying for breakfast? Appa makes the best pancakes. Isabella looked at Junho. He nodded. I'd like that, Isabella said. They made pancakes together. The three of them in that tiny kitchen. Isabella was clumsy and used to domestic tasks. Hannah laughed when she burned the first batch. Junho showed her how to flip them properly. It was ordinary, simple, human. For the first time in 6 months, Isabella smiled. A real smile. small and broken, but genuine. After breakfast, Hannah went to her room to get dressed for school. Isabella helped Junho clean up. "What do I do now?" she asked. "Everything I believed was wrong. Everything I worked for was based on lies. Who am I if I'm not the girl seeking justice for her father?" "You're the woman who saved 53 children," Junho said. "You're the person who kept her promise to a desperate father. You're someone who can choose what comes next." "Do I go to Richard? Tell him I know." "Do you want to?" Isabella was quiet for a long time. "I don't know. Part of me wants to rage at him. For letting me hate him. For not telling me the truth. She stopped. "But another part of me understands. He was protecting my mother's memory. Protecting me from a truth that would have destroyed everything. So what will you do?" She looked out the window at Sol waking up. "I think I need to learn how to be someone other than angry. I think I need to figure out who Isabella Osei is when she's not on a crusade." She turned back to him. "Will you help me?" "How?" "Teach me how to be normal. How to make pancakes. How to live a life that's not about revenge or rage or proving something." Her eyes were vulnerable in a way he'd never seen. "I don't know how to do that. I've been angry for so long. I don't remember how to be anything else." Junho thought about it. About this woman who'd manipulated him, saved his daughter, and turned out to be just as lost as he was. "Okay," he said, "but you have to promise me something." "What?" "You have to tell Richard the truth. That you know. Not today. Not tomorrow. But eventually. He deserves to know that his daughter finally sees him." Isabella's jaw clenched, then relaxed. "Okay. Eventually." Hannah came bouncing back in, backpack on, ready for school. "Appa, can Isabella walk me to school? I want to show her my favorite playground." Isabella looked terrified. "I don't know if." "Please." Hannah's eyes were huge. "You seem sad. The playground makes everyone happy." Junho watched Isabella's face. Watched the walls she'd built for 20 years crack just a little more. "Okay," Isabella said. "I'd love to see your playground." They left together. Junho watched from the window as Isabella held Hannah's hand, listening to her chatter about school and friends and all the small, ordinary things that made up a child's world. And for the first time since he'd met her, Isabella looked like she might find peace. 6 months later, the diner was busier than usual. Friday night rush. Junho moved through the tables with practiced ease, refilling coffee, taking orders, smiling at regulars. At the corner booth, the same one where this had all started, Isabella sat across from Richard Park. They weren't yelling, weren't arguing, just talking, quietly, carefully, like two people navigating a minefield of shared pain and complicated history. Junho couldn't hear what they were saying. Didn't need to. He could see it in the way Richard's eyes filled with tears. In the way Isabella's hand slowly reached across the table. In the way their fingers touched, hesitant and hopeful and healing. Later, after Richard left, Isabella stayed. Ordered coffee. Left a generous tip this time. 20,000 won on a 12,000 won bill. When Junho cleared her table, there was a note. "Thank you. For telling me the truth even when I didn't want to hear it. For showing me that broken people can still find ways to be whole. For reminding me that revenge isn't the only story worth living. I.P.S. Richard wants to meet Hannah. Says she reminds him of me at that age." I said yes. "Is that okay?" Junho wrote on the back of the receipt. "It's perfect. Bring him by Sunday. We're making pancakes." He left it on the table for her to find. When he looked up, Isabella was standing at the door. She caught his eye, smiled. A real smile this time. Full and genuine and free. Then she was gone, walking into Sol's night. Not disappearing this time. Just leaving. With the promise of Sunday. Of pancakes. Of a future that looked nothing like the past. Junho went back to work. Refilled Old Man Park soju. Helped young Kim with her homework. Gave free coffee to the tired businessman who couldn't afford dinner. His cream-colored hair was going silver at the temples now. The lotus tattoo on his arm was fading. He was older, more tired, but also somehow lighter. Hannah was alive. Isabella was healing. Richard had his daughter back. And Junho had learned that sometimes the zero tip was never about the money. Sometimes it was about finding the people who needed saving. And sometimes, the person who needed saving most was the one holding all the power. The end. Or is it? Because 3 months after this story ends, Isabella discovered something in Richard's files. The real files. The ones she finally got access to. Something about Marcus Ose's death that no one saw coming. Something that changes everything again. Want to know what she found? Drop a part 2 in the comments if you want to see where this really goes. Because this story, it's just beginning. And trust me, you haven't seen anything yet. Now hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, and get ready for a sequel that will make this whole story look like the opening chapter. See you in part 2, if you're brave enough.